What's going on, guys? Welcome back to hopefully the last episode of the Onsong Performance Fish and Drifts R33.4. So Rex went and got some more gas last night. Finally finished up the dump pipe this morning. So it's just about to go in. There it is there. Yeehaw. So I'll chuck it in and then we'll do a bit of a tidy up and we'll get this thing ready to go. We'll get it on the dyno and start getting it tuned. So we've got a good mate Joel out here today, and he's just a Motec whiz. So like I said at the end of the last episode, I was really glad that he's out here just to give us a bit of a run through the software. Obviously, once again, we've ended up a bit short of time. It's going to be a little bit rushed, so having someone in here that's completely familiar with the M1 software is just going to help, obviously, speed things up a bit, which is going to be awesome. So after the end of last episode, not being able to add those sensors the way I wanted to, we're just going to run them the way that I inputted them in the end. Again, all we need to do is see the data. It's not particularly important, I suppose, at this stage that they do anything outside of that. We just want to be able to see how hard we're pushing this thing. So for now, we'll just go until we're comfortable based off the data we're getting. And if it's looking like we're going to have to really push this thing a bit harder than we want to get to the goals we want to do, we'll pull it up. And, you know, maybe a few months down the track, we can upgrade to the GPA firmware. And that way those sensors can actually be doing something in the tune, and that way we can sort of push that extra couple of horsepower if we really want to, and know that the Motec and the sensors are going to work together to keep it safe. So we'll just make the call on the dyno. I'm pretty confident it's going to be fine though, and we'll just analyze the data as we go. Righto guys, dump pipe's in, O2's back in, so we're pretty much ready to drop this thing on the ground and crank it up. We'll see how different the injectors actually are, see if it starts up and runs with the new injectors in it, with only the injector data changed. I don't think it's going to, because I reckon the 1000 data was way out, so I reckon it's going to be very different. But anyway, drop it down, get the strut brace back on it. Having a look, we can't even set up the EMAP the way I wanted to. So with the AC pressure, it doesn't actually have it in the GP light. Well, it does, but we had to set up an AC request for it to actually be available, which means we'd have to wire another pin from another source into the ECU to have an AC request so that it had AC on in the ECU, and then it would measure the pressure. So anyway, basically considering the fact that the dyno, like the ECU is not going to be doing anything with the data anyway, and all we really want is the data today to see how it's going with the tune, I pretty much decided that we'll just use the EMAP setup on the dyno, the way we normally would in a car where we didn't have a sensor, just so that we can monitor what the hell's going on with it, push it to where we want to push it to, and then pull it up, and then that'll be it. Not going to bother trying to get it jerry-rigged into the Motec, but obviously I'll leave everything in the car. I'll pull the sensor out, because as we talked about, we probably need a better sensor than that anyway. So I'll pull the sensor out, but I'll leave the copper tube and the filter and everything in the car. I'll leave the wiring to the sensor all in the car, so that, you know, if later on Brad does want to go to the GPA package, upgrade the firmware for the ECU, it's all already there to just input it then, and then we can actually use it in the ECU. Yeah, drop it down, start her up, see how it sounds. Keen to hear this dose, and you can see the difference between the old cooler piping. Look at that. The old bob and everything, compared to what's on the car now. How much better. How good, guys. She's come up mint. We're really happy with it. Righto, boys and girls, there you have the actual finished up engine bay. I've just got that valley cover sitting on there at the moment. It's not very clean. Like I said, it all needs a bit of a clean up and a bit of attention, but you can see the idea. And yeah, this thing's freaking sick. It's menacing. I love it. So time to finally get it tuned. And with Joel's help, we should be able to fast track our crash course through the M1 software a bit more. Obviously, from tuning this thing already, I've got a pretty good handle on it, but you know, it's always hard learning a new software, particularly something like M1, where there's just a lot of little tips and tricks, where someone like Joel, who's very familiar with it, is going to help a great deal with us. Just little things that you get stuck on for like half an hour, 20 minutes. I'm not going to do that, which will just hopefully fast track the tune quite a bit. So it is 10 to 11, so get this thing on the dyno and hopefully have it sorted this afternoon. And yeah, Brad can come and get it tomorrow. If not, we can just spend a bit more time on it in the morning if we have to. But yeah, stoked that it's finally getting sorted.
I have full confidence in Joel's capabilities. I reckon he'll fucking have it sorted out pretty quick.
Yeehaw. Tuned by Joel. Right guys, so we're having a few dramas getting the IAC to work, so just double checking all of our pinning out and everything else and trying to find a bit more information on that, but by all accounts it should be fine, going off what Motec says and what Haltech says about the actual stepper motor, because it came from Haltech. It should be fine, but anyway, Rex managed to crack the sump plug, so while the boys are chasing that up a bit, I'll change this oil and hopefully we can get this sorted and get it on the dyno, because it's after 12 now, so. Righto guys, so we're chasing a bit of a noise that this thing started to make. To me it sounded like the boost stock cam splash guard, it sits pretty hard against the cam caps. So I was wondering if maybe at a certain frequency it was actually rattling against the cam caps, and that's sort of what it sounded like. So we just pulled it off and just bent the two wings out a little bit so it wouldn't be hard against the cap. We actually bent them out so that it would actually be hard against the cam cover, like it was pushing out hard. But it's still making the same noise, and it's a pretty horrific sounding noise. So what we've decided to do, we're gonna pull this cover back off and just take the cam splash guard off. The boost stock cam splash guard's just gonna come off. We'll put the cover back on and start it again and see if the noise goes away, just to confirm that that is what is making the noise. It sounds disgusting, but if that's definitely what's making the noise, I'm pretty happy just to leave it. You know, it's obviously nothing terrible, but we do just need to confirm that that is the case. So we'll pull it off, pull the boost stock cam splash guard off, and hopefully our noise goes away. And if it doesn't, we're gonna have to be looking at something else. Anyway, it's weird, like it's a certain RPM, it seems like a certain frequency. If you go past it and rev it up more than that, it goes away. So
it really sounds like that tinny sound you'd get if a bit of flat was vibrating like that.
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. So anyway, I've not heard of anyone having this issue with these splash guards before. So anyway, fingers crossed that's the issue. Hopefully it's just something simple like that. Anyway guys, I really hope this fixes the issue, because it's already 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. Brad's gonna be here in the morning to pick it up, so we've really got to get this thing on the dyno and get it tuned. So once again, yet again, rushed tune. Doesn't seem to matter what we try and do with this car, we always end up rushing the tune, and sucks, but that's what happens. It is what it is. Righto guys, so our day just got real fun. Took the splash guard out, still making the same noise. So obviously it's not the splash guards. So anyone who's thinking about the splash guards, not the problem. But yeah, it sort of sounded like it was coming from at the front of the manifold. These big sheet manifolds, they can be a bit funny in how they echo things. But this is what the problem actually is. You have a look along that weld. She's definitely cracked. So intake's cooked. So for two options, try and lay a bead on it now. Dan's here, which is probably a really good help at the moment. So we could just disconnect the battery, grind that back, and just try and get a bead on it. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but it might get Brad through next weekend. But yeah, I guess that's probably the option, because the only other option is obviously get another intake manifold, which we're going to do anyway. That's going to have to happen anyway. But you know, either we sit out and do fuck all, or we try and weld it up and just see how it goes. So we may as well just try and weld it up. So we might do that. Hopefully it's not cracked along the bottom. Anyway, that must have happened at Matsuri. Sort of makes sense. I wonder how much, or whether it's actually leaking some air through that that crack. It'd have to be leaking a fair bit, but at Matsuri, Brad was talking about how it felt like it was really down on power through the mid-range. He kept having to go back to second because he couldn't power out of it in third, which is why I sort of kept trying to put timing into the map in the Motec, but the timing compared to when the Haltech was in, it was actually not too bad. It was about the same. So maybe that was the problem. Maybe it's just a big old boost leak through the manifold there, which is causing an issue. So, all right guys, so this is the plan. We're gonna, fingers crossed, that's the only crack in the manifold, because we can't actually see the bottom, and it's not coming off because we don't have time to take it off, and two, I don't have another inlet gasket to put back on it.
We've got plenty of RTV.
We do have plenty of RTV, but they're such a prick to get at. Yeah, it's not a small job. It's not like an LS. Anyway.
Another tick in the box for the LS.
So anyway, we're gonna count on the fact that this is the only crack in it. We're gonna drill at each end of the crack, but not all the way through. So, obviously it's still on the car, so you don't want to penetrate it because you end up with some swarf. But if you don't particularly have to penetrate it all the way through, because the weld will actually penetrate the last little bit. But if you just drill it, it gives you that edge to start the weld on where it's not going to continue to crack. So we're just going to drill through it just enough to try and repair it properly, but not all the way through so that it penetrates the manifold and gets swarf on the inside of it. So we'll do that. We'll run the grinder up the crack just a little bit, just to get a little bit of a V out, and Dan is going to just weld up the top of that manifold for us. Hopefully that's the only crack. That'll get us basically back in action to get the car hopefully tuned. Considering the issue that it's got there, I think what we'll do is just tune this thing back to about 22 pound, about what it was running prior to the Motec, and we'll just leave it at that until basically Bradley gets a new intake manifold for it, because obviously this manifold's not too happy with more boost, because it appears to have been running around that 22 pound for a very long time fine. As you can see, back when the car was white, you know, for years it's been running at that pound and it's been alright, but obviously as soon as we chuck a Motec in it and tried to run 25, 26 towards 30 pound of boost, that obviously became pretty unhappy. So yeah, we'll weld it up, keep the boost low, get this thing tuned, get Bradley to his competition next week, and then we'll work on getting another intake manifold, get it back here and get some more boost into it after that. So, man, this car, bloody cursed. Anyway, should have just left it the way it was. Probably would have if the Haltech didn't bin it. We let the magic out by starting to change things, but anyway, you get that. We'll fix it the best we can. Yeehaw. Get it done, son. Got the old D grinder. Hit. Us. Get a little bit more there. So you want to just flappy wheel the top, get all the paint off it?
Yeah, I think I'll prep it up a little bit more and then see how we go. Give it a weld and cross fingers it all joins together. Cross fingers.
Fingers crossed.
Good.
Righto, so that's our little bit of drill at the start and the end of the crack. It's ground out. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but even in the grind you can definitely see the crack. So yeah, like I said, fingers crossed that it's only the top here that's cracked and this is going to be enough. Yeah, that's where the crack is. You can hear it plain as day.
No fucking good.
Oh, alright. Righto. Good as new. Passes the knock test. So, thanks Dan for saving the day.
No dramas.
And fingers crossed there's no more cracks in the bottom of it. So, like I said, hope that'll get us through the next event. Righto guys, so I just hooked everything back up, got the battery hooked up again and started the car, and it's still making the same noise at that certain RPM. So I reckon that this manifold, most likely scenario is that it is cracked along the bottom. That is most likely what's going on with it. So yeah, we might just have to just pull it off. Weld the bottom and then RTV it back onto the engine because we don't have an intake gasket. I don't think. I can have a look around in the stock room, but I don't think we have one. Or we leave it cracked, send it as is. That's definitely not the right thing to do. Definitely not, because if it gets worse throughout the weekend, it's going to change what the engine's doing dynamically, which is going to throw the tune out, which then you risk damage to other things. It's not worth doing. So I don't know. This freaking car, man. This freaking car. Righto, guys. So we're pretty much committing to getting this manifold off and just trying to weld underneath up. It's going to be a prick of a job. It's going to suck, and I hate it that it's still only temporary. The fact that we got to get it off and back on for a temporary fix. Super unstoked and unhappy about it, but it's the only way that Brad's going to be able to compete with it next weekend and actually have a decent setup that's going to perform and behave and you know, do what he wants it to do. So we're going to have to do it. So we'll get stuck into it. It's 3:15. I've still got to go. Today's voting day. I've got to go vote. But yeah, we'll get this off and try and get it welded up and try and get it back together and back on the dyno tomorrow and have it tuned so Brad can take it tomorrow afternoon. Oh, what a friggin' time this car's turned into. Righto guys, so we moved the car so it's in a bit of a better position. Where Rex has gone underneath it and we have confirmed that it's definitely cracked. So off it comes. Rex reckons it looks worse than the top did, which makes a lot of sense considering the noise it's still making. So yep, let's get it out of there. Righto boys and girls, I just got back from voting and boys have gone hard, got the manifold off, welded up the crack underneath.
I'm not here to fuck spiders.
Aren't you? Have you ever tried it?
Not today.
I've seen a spider get hurt.
So that's hopefully this is it for it now. Rex is going to make a block off plate for the standard IACV because we're not using it. And we'll try and... Oh, did you undo all the water ports?
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
did you have to get room?
So that I could get at the bottom
Yep. Bolts.
bottom bolts.
Okay, fair enough. Yep, that makes sense. Yep. Anyway, that's where we're at with it. So, time for it to go back on the car. At this stage, car won't be getting tuned until tomorrow. So, Brad can just come down in the morning and he's just going to have to pretty much hang around until it's finished to take it home. But it is what it is. At least we're getting sorted for him.
I think you.
And I'll try and talk him into just buying a full new Plasma Man intake manifold for it. I reckon would be the go-to. What I'd like to run on this thing is, yeah, full Plasma Man. Stay away from these nasty cheap ones. Oh, look at that. Painful job. Anyway, get that on the big jobs. Hey, you can see my loom. Oh, that's so pretty. Look at that. Oh, pretty. So that's the plug that I lift in there for the IACV, and that's the little patch loom to the IACV, which is over here, which you can see now. Nice. The boys got that working awesome, so hey, you get to see all my looms, so that's cool. Going back together, and hopefully that's going to be it. So it is still making that noise. It's nowhere near as bad. It is a lot better, but it's still making the noise. But that's all. That's it. Yeah, that's there. That's it. It's done. We're out of time. It's how it's getting sent. It's going on the dyno in the morning. It's getting tuned. Brad's taking it in the afternoon. It's going back to Yeppoon. And it'll come back with the new manifold later on. So it's funny, we were talking about how we actually decided to sponsor this car. One, because Brad's a really good bloke, but secondly, because since we started working on it and we got it all sorted out for him and tuned, he's taken it and it's just been the most reliable drift car like ever. It's just done lap after lap after lap, absolutely peeled laps, all different disciplines. He's driven the crap out of the car, like heaps of different events. And yeah, we were like, oh, you know, it's a reliable car, Brad's a good bloke, drives the crap out of it, we'll sponsor him. And like as soon as we decided to sponsor him, immediately it just turned to crap. Immediately the dyno shut the bed. It just ended up being more and more things. The car has just had problems and we've been chasing issues. Oh, man. And the funny thing is about that is all of the issues that we've been chasing, like they're not, there's been no wiring issues after we did the wiring sort of thing. Like none of them are like from us. It's just like, I can't tell whether we let the magic out by deciding to sponsor him and change things and we should have just left it how it was, or whether after like 3 years of Brad just doing lap after lap after lap with heaps of different events, he just wore the thing out. And now we've gone to touch it, it's everything's worn out, we've had to fix everything on it. But anyway, either way, we'll get it sorted in the end, and it's gonna be a freaking wicked car. But it's just a funny thing we were talking about how it was so reliable. It just seems to have had nothing but issues since we decided to sponsor him. And not only that, but we've had nothing but issues. It's just ended up being a huge amount of time and money to get it to where it is. But like you get that still though, it looks so sick. And compared to the car it was like 3 months ago when we first decided to sponsor him, like the new color, the new livery, the new wiring, the new ECU, all the new fab work, the new hot side, everything. You know, it's sick. Righto guys, so we're back here this morning. We did end up staying here till about 6:30 last night with Joel, just going through stuff on the Motec. So can't thank Joel enough for what he's shown us just last night. Just little tricks and tips on the Motec. Things that I wouldn't have figured out in the short amount of time that we've got to put this on the dyno now. That will save us so much time today in getting this set up right. So, you know, Motec is pretty much the best around for a reason, but it is very complicated. It's endless. There's so much to learn just in the one platform. So having someone that's very familiar with that platform, I'd say that there's more to learn in Motec than just about every other freaking platform, like every other ECU combined so far that we've sort of learned. So yeah, been very happy with having Joel help us out there. So that's been awesome. So it's finally dyno day. It's as good as it's going to get. Also, again, big shout out to Dan Razfab for welding up the manifold for us while he was here. Yeah, both those boys, huge help yesterday. So remember how to even work this bloody thing. Oh, how to use the bloody thing. Alright guys, so we're having a lot of issues with traction. This thing just frying tyres. It's just got, it's actually got 2 different burners on it. So they're not doing too great. Not doing too awesome. But apart from that, everything's going well. The dyno's going well. We've had no issues with the dyno, so yeah, that's all right. That's happy days. The man himself has just arrived. He's here. I wonder if he's got spare wheels and tyres, because it'd be cool to get this thing to hook up. But have a look at the like the dump pipe after it's got some colour in it though. It's freaking awesome. Look at that. Okay. Bit of colour in the dump. Here he is, the man himself. But apart from that, awesome. No leaks, no other issues. It's been great. But here he is, mate. Been a little while since you saw the car.
I've come to say sorry, mate.
Come to offer apologies.
She's all good now, mate?
Oh, we're having issues with traction, mate.
Traction?
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Traction problems. But anyway, see what we can do. Manifold appears to be holding up, so. Righto guys, so just went to start doing some power runs and we're out of fuel. We have run out of E85, so every time it comes up to the roller it's surging and it's a heap of fuel pressure dropping, and it's so nice having all those sensors in the Motec so that I can see and know exactly what's going on as it happens. It's great. But anyway, Brad's shot off to the closest E85 servo to us to get some fuel, but he is going to be probably about an hour. But we get some more fuel in this thing, finish off these power runs, and we should be pretty good. It's going to be another one of those It's going to be another one of those things where I'm not going to have quite as much time as I would like on the dyno to get everything completely sorted that I want to. Like I said, huge thanks to Joel yesterday for saving us so much time. Otherwise, it would be so much harder than it already is. But we'll just get the fueling sorted. We're going to leave the VCT the way it was because I think we had that VCT pretty right when we were at Whitey's last time. So I don't think the new turbo is going to affect it that much. Even then, we don't really have the time to play around with it today to get it or see if it makes a difference. So pretty happy to leave the VCT where it is. We'll get the fueling right for what the VCT is at. I'm happy to leave the timing that's in it where it's at. It probably could take a bit more timing now that it's got a more efficient hot side wheel, but without the time, and especially today being a Sunday and neighbours, etc., particularly with weather like this, they're probably all at home. So yeah, we just don't really have the time to do a lot of that. So we just get the fueling right, we'll get the closed loop set up, all working properly. We'll try and get, one thing I do want to try and get set up is the closed loop boost control for Matsuri. At Sam's, we didn't have the time. I just left it in open loop and just set the feed forward and the duty cycle and just left it at that. But I would like to set up the actual closed loop boost control this time so that it's always targeting the same boost. So if I can get it to that point, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to send it at that. So that's what we're aiming towards. We'll see how the delay thing goes with some fuel in it. So the boys, yeah, Brad's still got their factory fuel gauge level gauge behind the power tune in this thing, and it looked like it was full yesterday, but we're already out of fuel, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that gauge might be a bit dicky, but anyway, one thing's for certain is that we are out of fuel. So otherwise though, this new setup seems to be going awesome. It's hard to set the tacho because of the attraction issues that we're having, so that's another thing today. I'm not sure if we're going to get a really accurate power figure from today with these tyres and the way this is aligned. It's one of the big things about Brad getting it aligned this week before CQ Drift is that he wants to get the rear end set up because he reckons that Matsuri, he had like no grip, which is interesting because he reckoned it was down on power. So interesting combination of issues to be down on power and still have no grip. But hopefully next time he brings it back with the intake manifold, we'll have some better tyres and alignment setup going on to get a bit more grip happening. And again, a bit more time to set up a few more things. Like we've got flamethrower and stuff on the motor. We've got heaps of cool commodities like that I would love to set up and use because they're there, but we just don't have time today. So hopefully next time. So far, the dipstick for our oil air separator is completely dry. So that's a good sign. Although we haven't been doing heaps of RPM yet and not heaps of boost yet, but it's still a good sign that so far it's dry. So like before Matsuri, obviously we took it to Sam's dyno. At that point I put 8 litres in it because I was none the wiser to this issue that it had. So in all of that dyno session on Sam's dyno, didn't actually push any oil out of that breather that was on that catch can. It wasn't until we actually got to Matsuri and Brad started driving on the track at those extended long periods at high RPM that he started having those issues, and obviously started an oil fire on the first lap, which he then sort of told me about that issue. So I'm not sure that we'll find out much on the dyno, but at least it's a good start, I suppose. Fingers crossed those cam splash cards really are doing what they're supposed to do, and I've heard really good things about them, so I hope they sort out a lot of these issues for us. Righto guys, so Brad didn't get back until like nearly 3 o'clock with that fuel. So once again, very limited on time. We've got this thing sorted enough to the point, you know, I'm happy the way it is for him to compete next weekend. Got it running 22 pound again, 412 horsepower. Yeah, it's doing that thing where it rocks on the dyno because it's not settling properly on the rollers. A lot of that's to do with the alignment and the way it's strapped. Once again, we don't really have the time to screw around trying to get the strapping right to get that out of it. I cannot wait for the day that we get a hub dyno and we don't have to deal with that BS anymore. But anyway, for now it is what it is. So the power curve looks ridiculous. We've got the latency for the closed loop all set up. We've got the closed loop boost all set up, so it's running in closed loop boost. The latency for the closed loop fuel's good, and I'm happy with the timing of the closed loop responding. So yeah, chuck 2 degrees at it. It made another 10 horsepower. It'll be fine like this until we can get some more time to have a look at it. So that being said, we're going to switch over to our EMAP now. We're running 22 pound of boost. We'll see what our EMAP's doing just to get some data. But it's 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and this thing's a bit rowdy. So this is going to be it. It's how Brad's going to compete. Hopefully it works out well for him. And spewing that we once again are rushed on the dyno with this thing. I really wish we had more time to sort it out, but it is what it is. So let's see what the EMAP's going. Righto guys, so this is what I was talking about. This is what the power does when the car's not settled on the roller properly, but we don't have time to screw around and try and get it right today. So this is our EMAP and this is our map. So as you can see, we're about 22 PSI we've got this thing set to. And at that, our EMAP's sort of creeping up to just over 30 pound, which is not too bad. That's a less than 2-to-1 ratio. I'd be pretty happy to lean on this a bit harder. So definitely pretty happy to sort of definitely run, you know, 26, 27, 28 pound. We'll see what our EMAP's doing up around there. But as long as we're sort of keeping it below that 2-to-1, even at that sort of boost, I'm pretty happy to lean on it and do that. So, you know, next time it's here and we've got a better intake manifold and more time, we'll definitely lean on this thing a lot harder and set up a lot of other features in the Motec and get it right. And by then Brad will have an alignment in the rear and hopefully some better tyres. We'll play around with the strapping and actually get it settled and see what the actual power number is.
We're still going to be cooking, mate. We're going to be cooking.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just happy that we managed to get traction for a whole run. Really, considering what the steady state was like, yeah, I'm happy enough with that. So
Since I've changed those blocks around, it's been a lot better.
Yeah, yep. Well, yeah, either way, for our limited time, that is what it is. It's good to compete. I'm just going to do a few more stabs in steady state just to make sure that closed loop boost control is doing what it's meant to be doing. But apart from that, that is how the car's going to be competing. So the 3076 is a bit lazier than the 3071 was, even with the adjusted tacho. It doesn't come on quite as early, but obviously the trade-off is you have a bit more flow there. So at those higher boost levels, it'll be a lot happier on the exhaust side than the 3071 was. So that's what we'll aim for once we get an intake that can take it. But yeah, I reckon we'll see if this thing will go 500. I reckon it's got 500 in it.
Looking at that, yeah.
Yeah.
30 pound, no worries.
30 pound, keep it under 2-to-1 exhaust, EMAP to map, and
gearbox hold up, you reckon?
Depends how bad drive.
We don't want to mention that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why there's no point going too much further.
Yeah, we won't go much further than 500 with this setup, but no, that'll be good. So anyway, Brad's still got to get back to Rocky as well.
Yeah.
Back to your poon.
Load her up and on my way.
4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. He's got to get from here back to your poon. He's got to go back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Having said that,
Things we do for drifting,
That's it. Hey, we've had a big week too.
Yeah.
Just did a mammoth job.
having said that, like if he's going to put decent, if you put decent cams in it, it probably won't even need 30 psi to make you 500.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, right. It'll open it up and get some more airflow in it.
Yep, more air in, more air out.
Yeah.
Happy days. All right, we'll do a bit more steady state stab, and then we'll get this thing off the dyno and get the livery or the aero back on it. Get it loaded up and get Brad on his way. All right, that's a wrap, boys and girls. Closed loop boost is working awesome. Yeah, same old story with this thing. I really wish we had some more time between what we got done before we ran out of fuel and then what we did after we ran out of fuel. It was still a total of less than 2.5 hours on the dyno again. So very little actual time to get the tune sorted. But that's the same old story with this thing. So it's ready to go, it's ready to compete. It seems to me like that 3076 is probably a bit lazier than it should be. And I would really like a bit more time to play around a bit more with those VCT settings. I'm not 100% convinced that the setup's as good as it could be, or the tune's as good as it could be for the setup. But yeah, if I just don't have time to sort of play with it at the moment. But it's going to be good for Brad to compete in. He's just going to need to drive it pretty aggressively, just like he did at Matsudo, with a bit of RPM, a bit more RPM than he's used to. Back to being that sort of 400 plus horsepower. So certainly, by all means, good to go. Just not as good as I would like, considering how much time and effort we put in. But anyway, he's going to get to GC Drift. It's been a huge week. Brad's got another week to go before he goes there. He's got alignment and new windscreen to go. There's some Fruit Loop. But anyway, so we'll see Brad at CQ Drift. We'll be heading up as well. Go support him. We'll be there. So looking forward to it. Should be a good weekend. And good luck to all the boys. But you'll see content of that as it comes as well. So thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this whole saga with this car. It's been a mammoth week. And yeah, you will see it back again because there is still more to be done. And yeah, like I said, based on the data we got today, well, I didn't even get a chance to even set up or look at turbo speed or anything else. Just didn't even get the chance, didn't get the time. But even just based on what we got today, pretty convinced that this thing should happily do 28 to 30 pounds. This turbo's got plenty more in it. So looking forward to doing that when we get it back. I think it's gonna be sick. So thanks guys. See you on the next one. Peace out, see you, bye.